Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard. I'm Loren Feldman. I'm here with Gene Marks to talk about the things we think business owners should be following this week. Welcome, Gene.
Hello, Loren.
Great to have you here. As usual, you've been writing and talking about stuff that matters to business owners in a way only someone who's actually a business owner themselves could. I want to start with a piece you wrote, making the business case for banning tipping.
Yeah.
This is something that comes up from time to time. It's not a new issue, but you introduced some things that I didn't know. It started with an explanation of how tips are handled differently in the restaurant industry than they are in the beauty industry. I didn't know that. Can you explain?
Yeah, this came across. Well, okay, let's take a step back, and I hope I can, give this, just make this as easy as possible to digest. If you're running a restaurant, the rule is that you've got to report to the government all of the compensation that your employees make. That's both what you pay them and the tips that they earn. And your requirement is you've got to pay employer taxes on all of that compensation. Okay. So, and that employer tax, the FICA tax, right? The 6.2% tax, you got to pay for that. Well, there's a special tax credit for the restaurant industry that gives you some relief on that income based on the tips that your employees received. I won't go into what the calculation is, but basically if you run a restaurant, you get a tax credit on so you don't have to pay all of the FICA tax on all of the income that your employees receive. Okay?
Yep.
That's an incentive. That's a good thing if you're running a restaurant. Well, the beauty salon industry has been growing in leaps and bounds. There's like 1.5 million beauty salons around the country. And as we know, to become like a beauty salon or a cosmetologist or whatever, it's like you have to have a PhD in engineering or something to do it. Some states, their regulations are insane, for that industry. And that industry has been lobbying hard.
And this isn't just beauty salons, right? It's barbershops as well.
Yeah. Yeah, barbershops, nail salons, yeah, the whole thing, the beauty industry, all the things the place that I don't go. So those businesses themselves, they also have a lot of tipped employees. And so they've wanted to be treated the same way as the restaurants are treated. And a new bill was just introduced by 2 senators that will allow them to take advantage of the same tax credit that the restaurant owners get to take advantage of, so that they don't have to pay all of the FICA tax on all of the earnings of their cosmetologist, is that right? Or, all the people that work in their beauty salon, regardless of whether they're getting tips or not. So this bill was been introduced just recently. It was in January, and it's the kind of bill that you can imagine. I mean, it'll probably make its way and get passed at some point. It's great. I mean, good for them. I do agree. It would give some relief to a lot of these business owners.
If it's fair for the restaurant owners, it's fair for the beauty salon owners.
Exactly right. And, but here's my beef with it. Okay. My beef is this: enough with the tipping. That's my beef. I mean, this whole tipping thing, I spent a month in London. You can't even go into a restaurant. I multiple times I would go into a restaurant, pay the bill. They would bring the bill with the credit card machine without I'm like, is there any place to leave a tip? And they would look at me like, tip? What's that? Like nobody, there have been times when I've left a tip for a server and they didn't know what to do with it. It's like in Western Europe and Asia and Australia, tipping is not a thing. It's only in the US where tipping is like a thing, And I just think it creates so much complications for small businesses. We've got to report on these tips. We've got to pay taxes on them.
It's also not always great for employees. There are a lot of employees not getting 100% paid what they should.
Yeah. First of all, you're an employee and you rely on these tips, and you get some jerk offs that come in that don't tip you. So you're getting screwed. On top of that, there are some jerk-off business owners who play around with the tips and don't report them the right way, and the employees get screwed out of that as well. There's a whole calculation that has to be done for sharing tips within the org. Within the bartenders get this, and the busboys get this, and the servers. I mean, come on, it's very complicated. So if we just didn't have tips, if we abolished tips in this country, I think it would be a lot. Not only would it be better for the employees, but I think it'd be a lot better for business owners. Now, you might say, hey, well, if you're, the business,
I'm going to say you're going to have a hard time convincing business owners of that.
Oh man, I'm telling you, because it's like anything else in this country. It's such a giant country that you just can't change anything. I think Obama realized that with Obamacare. You know what I mean? It's very hard to like do anything on a massive scale. And business owners, of course, would be screaming and yelling that like, oh, you're going to increase our costs because now we have to pay our employees more, and and then pass that down to our customers. And I'm like, dude, I'm already paying 15 to 20% more anyway because I'm leaving a tip for somebody, so pass it down. It makes no difference to me. I just would rather pay one bill and not even have to go through the pressure of knowing whether I'm tipping or not. It just is what it is. And
there have been efforts at this. I mean, most famously, I think Danny Meyer and his restaurants in New York tried it.
He failed. He tried to do it.
And interestingly, it failed in part because the employees didn't like it. Some employees quit because they knew they could make more money in a place where they got tips, especially on, busy nights like a Saturday night.
Yeah. The only way that you can make it work is it just has to be across the board. So it's a level playing field, and it just has to be legislated to do that. And, and again, I mean, for me, I think you would think, particularly with, the government, the way it is now, they're hungry for any tax receipts. It's an easier way for the government to collect more payroll taxes because they won't have to be chasing down, tips and figuring out what that is. Do you know what I mean?
I guess I can understand the business owner concern with having to pay more. And yes, there are, I understand how that, your response to that, but they would have to raise prices, and there's an emotional aspect to that, even if,
but again,
if
it's across the board,
that makes a difference.
It really does. And then I think it's like anything else. I mean, people hate change. I mean, this is the way the society has always been, but man, it's just, that's what instigated this, what prompted me to write about this. Cause I got the press release about this new bill for the beauty salon industry, and I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm trying to understand it. And literally, I mean, okay, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but I'm not a complete moron. It took me a few times to read through it to figure out this calculation, like what it involved. And I'm like, Jesus, this is a pain in the ass. Like, why do we even going through it?
You're also a CPA, which makes a difference.
Yeah, you would think it would like come naturally. And I'm like, wait a second, what was the floor? And then, and by the way, I got the calculation wrong because then I wrote the thing, submitted it, it gets published, and you were the one that emailed me and said, wait a second, Gene, like, don't you have like, and I'm like, yeah, I screwed that up. It was a typo. I can't, so even that's an indication of how annoying the calculation is. And I think like, well, if I'm screwing this up, I mean, how many business owners are also not going to understand it? Why do we even need to worry about this? Just forget about tips. There.
Chances that this will ever be changed?
Never. Zero.
Okay.
Zero. I have more chance of growing hair than this will ever change in the future.
All right. Well, in that case, next topic. You wrote recently about having a virtual office and not really loving it. We've talked about this before. What was new in this piece, at least to me, is you made the argument that you're not even sure you're saving money by not leasing office space. That surprised me. Tell me about that.
So, when I started this up back in 2005, when my dad passed away, we had offices, and then I shut them down because nobody was coming in the office. You've heard the story 100 times already. And, we went like all virtual. And you've heard me joke about my company being the world's most dysfunctional company because we're virtual.
Yes.
And we are the world's most dysfunctional company. And so there's all this. There is cost to running a virtual company that, people, forget about. There is this cost of now I'm subscribing to 67 different online applications and services and hosted phone systems and Google. I looked at my G
that you wouldn't need if you had an office.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, you're right. I mean, I would probably have some of those costs as well, but because I have these remote employees, I have to get more of these sort of remote management tools to do that. So there is that cost, but you do raise a good point. Maybe I'd be incurring the same thing if I had a typical office.
Some of them.
I don't know. Also, I have people that work, both employees and contractors, and they work around the country. I have some in California, Colorado, and Florida, and New York State. And there's like tax issues. Like I'm paying my tax accountant a lot more to try and make sure to make sure that we're withholding and reporting on, the tax, on their compensation, also helping them out because they don't really know what the tax rules are because we're like located in Pennsylvania, but we're close to Philadelphia, and there's state tax issues, and
that's a real concern. I mean, some businesses have gotten in trouble because they've had employees working in places they didn't know about it. And
correct.
If it surfaces, there are fines that you can be subject to.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, all of that creates, more headaches for me as well. So I have all of that. And then, of course, there's just the sort of added cost of just unproductivity. I mean, like if you do have people in the office, you do keep an eye on them. You do see them. Now, again, the whole reason why I started up this virtual office was because people weren't coming into my office. But I guess if you are
so you're definitely doing better than leasing an office that nobody's using.
Right. That is correct. But I guess the point is that if you're running a business where you do have people in your office and then you're thinking of just going all virtual, there are costs for doing that. And there are going to be, elevated remote management and monitoring tools that you're going to get from a security standpoint. Not that you're going to be monitoring your employees every keystroke, but that's a cost. You're going to have a cost of efficiencies and inefficiencies that you're going to lose. You're going to have costs of losing out on ideas and innovation as well. And then, of course, you have like some compliance costs and accounting costs, tax costs, because where people are located, you've got to make sure that you're doing what you got to be doing. And some of the states are getting really tough about that. All of that stuff needs to be taken into consideration if you are thinking of going all virtual. And I'm telling you, a lot of companies are thinking of doing just that because of, the way the workplace is nowadays.
Could you imagine ever going back to having an office?
No, it's a great question. I never would. Listen, I'm 58 years old, so come on, I'm not going to change. You know what I mean? I eat the same takeout food every Friday night. I have the same routine. I'm just not going to change. I'm very regular. So, no, I don't see myself doing that. And the other thing is, and I wrote about this,
what stops you from doing it? I mean, aside from being a creature of habit, there must be something you like about not having the office.
I think, first of all, is that I still think financially it makes more sense to do it this way. But the big thing that's driving me is my staff. I have pretty low turnover, believe it or not. You would think working for me, I would be losing all my employees every other month. But I've got like 10 employees, actually 11 now. And most of them have been with me for a long time. They like it. They like they've liked it since 2005 and 2015 and whenever they were hired. So if I were to say we're going to open up an office and I want you to come into an office, I'd probably lose them.
That's a good thought, a good reason to keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
All right, next topic. You wrote a piece for Forbes in which you listed 27 uses for ChatGPT that small businesses can do right now.
Is that crazy? Or is that 27 things you can do right now? You can be doing that.
But can you really?
ChatGPT. Wait, hold on. Here we go. Ready? You can be using it for programming. You can be using it to write blogs. You can be using it to do market research. You can be using it to draft legal forms.
You wouldn't just
don't interrupt me, Lauren. I don't care if this is your show. I'm running off this list right now. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Keep going.
Okay. You can use it. You can ask legal questions. You can use it for scientific research. You can use it to provide a knowledge base for customer service calls. You can use it to do, don't stop me now, online chat and support. You can use it to answer tax questions that you might have. You can have it draft HR policies. You can have it answer specific HR questions. You can use it to draft product descriptions. If you're in the real estate business, it can draft real estate descriptions. I'm halfway through the list right now. You can use it to come up with sales pitches that you can use in emails and campaigns. You can use it to draft a newsletter every month. You can use it to draft internal memos based on the topic. You can use it to draft a quote if you integrate it with your accounting system. It can draft a brochure, sales brochure. It can do math calculations for you. It can translate documents. It can generate multi-language content when you generate that content. When you get Teams, you can actually use it to prep for meetings. It can do research for you in advance of a meeting or manage your meeting so that it'll do transcripts from your meeting. You will be using it very soon in Microsoft Office to create spreadsheets and PowerPoints based on information that you just tell it. You can use it to provide training materials. You can use it to drop job listings, job descriptions, and finally, you can use it for business advice as well. Now, can I read the caveats to you, or at least can I tell you?
There better be a good one for taking business advice from it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you just can't rely on any of the information. That's my caveat.
Okay,
you can do all of that.
Small
with
caveat
it.
there.
Yeah, it might not be right. Okay, so there. Listen. There's pros and cons to everything. I mean, obviously, ChatGPT is it's in its infancy. There's bias, it's inaccuracies, it's incomplete.
But you can use it to create legal documents, I hear.
Yeah, right. Even to use in some of these, to do quotes. I mean, it's not out of the box. It's an open source application. You would have to hire somebody to integrate it, say, with your accounting system if you want to actually use it to help you with doing quoting. But it is all stuff you can be using for it right now. And hopefully, it will get better and more accurate and more reliable in the future. And it's there. It's open and it's doing it. And I actually do have clients and friends and people that are using it for some of those specific things that I just mentioned.
Gene, nobody writes more than you do for more different publications. Have you tried using it to draft something?
Not yet. And I might. You know what the first thing is I'm going to try and do is, and this is all seriousness. So on my website, I have a blog for my products. And I have people in my office that write every month. They write blogs and like 3 blogs for each product because Google likes it when your website is active and it's got, current and changing content. It helps with SEO. And I've already told them that I'd like each of them to go and use ChatGPT to generate the blog for them every month. Then after it generates, they need to review it and make sure that it makes sense and all of that. But my hope is I'll start getting some feedback in the next month or two that they're able to have it and then do the blog in half the amount of time, which is the whole point of ChatGPT. It's a productivity tool so that you can squeeze more work out of your existing people. And I'm paying my people if it takes them an hour and a half to write up a good blog on Salesforce or Zoho, and ChatGPT can cut that time in half. That's like saving me money. That's good stuff. So I'm going to have them start doing that, and I'm going to put that into practice.
And we will look forward to hearing how it goes.
Yes, I will be reporting back to you on that because I like to share that stuff.
Last topic, Alan Greenspan's underwear. This is about a piece you did not write, but it ran in Fortune, and it talked about the former chief of the Federal Reserve Board and his well-known belief that men's underwear are a strong economic indicator. We've talked about these kinds of metrics indicators frequently. You're a big believer. You follow many. Do you buy this one?
Okay, first of all, where did you get this from Fortune? Because I've been talking about this metric for years. Did somebody steal this from me? I don't even know.
Alan Greenspan, I remember when he was
chairman of the Fed.
Yeah, he talked about it then. Yeah. This particular story ran in Fortune, but it's been covered many times, many places.
Yeah. So he gets a report from the men's underwear industry every month. I don't know if he still does. And to him, that was an indication of where the economy is going, right? And listen, do I think it's a reliable metric? Well, listen, you and I are both guys, right? Learn. So, when things are going good, we're buying new underwear. When things are not going so good, I don't know, we turn it inside out. What can I tell you, right? Can we share this right now? We're friends here, aren't we? So Greenspan knows he's a nerdy guy, but he's a guy and he knows what guys do when things are rough. We cut back on the underwear and just basically reuse that product. So there, I've now shared a dirty little secret.
So you do buy it. It's funny. I mean, it could have been shoes, sneakers, or pants or something.
Well, there are a lot of interesting metrics, and I love. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. And I haven't written about this for a while because I do talk about it when I speak. I like to share some sort of lesser known metrics. I mean, everybody focuses on the GDP and the unemployment rate when there are a lot of other core metrics that are more interesting to follow that really give you like a taste of what's. I mean, there are weird ones like the underwear one or the there's one guy is a researcher for NYU who did a metric of stolen pets. Like literally, he analyzes. I can send you this story. He analyzes like dogs that are stolen, that are reported stolen because he believes that there's like a black market when the economy is going bad. More people buy their pets on the black market.
Wow.
Then through like breeders. I don't even know if that's accurate or not, but that's what he does. there's smaller metrics that are more serious. Like, have we talked about the Baltic Dry Index? Like, are you familiar with that metric?
I've heard it. I don't remember how it works. Tell me.
It is. I've got a few economist friends that swear by it because it measures the cost of freight through the Baltic Sea. Now, I mean, I couldn't even point out the Baltic Sea for you on a map. I bet you could. Know people are paddling canoes through the Baltic Sea, but apparently
you were just in Malta.
Yeah, right. It is. I still don't. Is the Baltic Sea's nowhere near Malta?
No, please, but you were in that closer to that part of the world.
No, but the idea is the Baltic Sea happens to be one of the more traversed, freight lanes in the world. And when freight costs are going up, that means there's more activity, right. There's more demand for freight. That means global shipping is up, and that's good.
That makes sense. That's more clear cut.
And the Baltic Dry Index, if you follow it, and there's a few different sites where you can follow it daily, weekly, monthly, you trend it out, you can actually see where the global economy is going just based on the activity of ships. And it makes a lot of sense to me too.
So have you bought any underwear recently?
Yeah, I have to think about that. No, I haven't bought it recently, but then again, I haven't turned it inside out. No, actually, I'm not being truthful here because when we were in London, I did go a few days. Well, that's another thing. So we can. I won't talk about that.
Let's leave that out. Too much information. It sounds like you haven't really bought any underwear recently, and I haven't either. I guess that's kind of a small sample size of 2, but
yes,
I guess that suggests we could be in for a tough time.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we're very it's just you and me saying so. And anyway.
All right. Anything in particular you're working on that we should look for this week?
Yeah. So next week, I'm going to write a piece for the Inquirer about PEOs, professional employer organizations, which I'm seeing a jump in interest because of all the complications of having employees. And I'm also going to write a piece for the Washington Times, tentatively, but probably about the producer price index, because wholesale prices went up more than expected. And I actually think the increases were actually higher than what's being reported. So I want to dig into that and hopefully write on that this week as well.
Interesting. All right. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts of his own with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Loren. This was fun. We'll see you next week.
Always a pleasure.